What's going on, you guys? Paul here with Paul's Performance, and on today's video we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be putting on a ceramic coating on my Tesla Model 3. Every car that I get, my truck, anything that I plan on keeping, or even if I don't, I usually put a ceramic coating on if it has nice paint. My Toyota doesn't have a coating, but it doesn't exactly have very good paint on it. Once it gets repainted though, it will have one. But my white truck, it actually does, because I had it painted like 2 years ago with white pearl, so I really didn't want it to I want it to last as long as possible. So it does have a ceramic coating on it. It has a Jax Wax ceramic coating, which was a company that I used a lot of their products for when I had a detailing van. I used to own a detailing business on the side. I had a mobile van, an E350 with a 6.0 Power Stroke van that I used to do detailing out of on the side. I ended up getting out of it, but I still have, most of my detailing equipment, and obviously I do my own vehicles, so I still have most of that equipment, and most of the stuff that I used, I just sold the van so I can still do professional detailing to my own stuff. And I do still do it to certain people I know, but I usually stay too busy to do any more than that. So, but today we're gonna put a coating on this, but first we're gonna have to prep the paint. So this video is probably gonna be mostly in prepping the car for the coating and getting it into the garage, and then we're gonna have to buff and cut any scratches, get the paint absolutely perfect, because once you put the coating on, anything that's on the paint, it's going to be there. So if you have a scratch or something and you don't want to put the coating over top of that, you want to buff that out before, that way the paint looks as good as possible. So today we're going to be washing the car, and we're going to be getting all of the previous waxes, grease, anything off of it. We're going to get the paint down to just the bare paint, because if you don't do that, the ceramic coating will not stick very well. So we're going to make sure we get it as clean as possible. I know a lot of people, when they put ceramic coatings on, they don't last, and it's usually because of the prep work. So I'm going to show you guys what I do to prep mine. I've had my ceramic coating on my F-250 for over 2.5 years now, and it still beads just like it's brand new. So if you take care of it and you actually put it on right the first time, they do work. Yes, they are expensive, especially if somebody else does it, but if you do it yourself, it'll be a little bit cheaper. I'm going to show you the whole process, and maybe you guys can do it yourself. And like I said, they do work, and they are very, very nice coatings. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so first step is we're gonna get the car washed. Obviously, that's the biggest prep that we're gonna do, is that, and then also the buffing. This car, I'm hoping, is only gonna take like a 1 stage on the buffing, because the paint's actually not in bad shape. It does have a couple scratches here and there, and it does have light swirls in it. We're gonna get that out, but it's not horrible. I know some paints, when they start, they are going to be very badly scratched or very badly swirled, and they may require more time, maybe a 3-step cut, polish, and buff. But this one, I'm hoping it's going to only take a 1 step. There might be a couple spots where I have to do a 2-step to get scratches out, but the paint looks pretty good on this car. But first, we're going to start with the cleaning process, and it's a little different than when you're cleaning just a normal car wash, because you need to get off all of the waxes, greases, road grime, everything. So it's going to be multiple steps that I do. I know everybody's different, but most people do most of the steps that I'm doing when they're putting on a ceramic coating, if not more. Some people do less, but like I said, this is a pretty time consuming and expensive little process here. The coating comes in a little bottle. I don't have my bottle. It's supposed to be here today, if Amazon pulls up. But it comes in a little bottle about like this big. And it's about, I mean, they kind of vary, but if you get a good one, you're probably going to spend between $80 to $100+ on that little bottle. And it goes a long way. Trust me. You look at the little bottle and you're like, dang, that's not going to do that much. But that little bottle goes a long way. As a matter of fact, with a 50 milliliter bottle, I could probably do I could probably do 2 Teslas depending on how many coats I did, which I'm probably going to use it all on this one because I'm probably going to do more than 1 coat. I'm going to at least do 2 coats on this car, but I have done multiple small cars with a 50 milliliter bottle because, like I said, it goes a long way. But like I said, not a very cheap thing. It's not putting on turtle wax, you know, from your local parts store. This is a project that you need to be careful with, and you need to take your time because you definitely don't want to do it twice, and you don't want to mess it up because this coating, you'll see when we get to the actual process of putting the coating on, it's almost like putting on clear coat. Once it dries and hardens, if you have a high spot, you're going to see it, and it's not going to wipe off. It's not like wax where you could just take it back over here and you know, clean it off. It's totally different. When it hardens, it hardens. So all of your towels and applicators that you're going to use for this project, you're going to have to throw away. So I would advise getting some cheap you know, microfibers that you can throw away, because once that ceramic coating gets on them and hardens, it's basically like little glass shards in them, and you'll see it'll actually stiffen up those terry cloths. So it's definitely a tough coating. It works, but if you do all the steps, it can last, and it does great. Trust me. Like I said, I have it on my truck, and these are the exact same steps I did on that. So firstly, we're going to start with washing the car. And you're not just going to want to use any soap, because you don't want to use your normal, you know, wash and wax soap to wash the car, because you don't want any waxes to be on it. There cannot be any contaminants that would prevent sticking. You want to get down to the bare paint. So the best soap that I found to use, I know they make stripper soaps from different detail companies, but for most people, you have this laying around the house and it works exceptionally well. And it is Dawn dish soap. So I have here your base model. If it's good enough for the ducks, it's good enough for my car. So this stuff right here is what I'm going to be using today for the wash. Nothing else. If you want to add some degreaser, you can. For my wheel bucket, I have degreaser in it. I'm not going to be ceramic coating the wheels because this just has a set of wheels that probably won't stay on here very long, so I'm not too worried about that. But I am going to be doing the car and the glass. So for my foam cannon here, I have this with Dawn and water. I have my bucket full of Dawn and water, and we're going to try and strip everything off. Any wax, anything on it, that's going to be our first step. And if you look at the car here, you can see it has a little bit of beading because it has some wax on it. I have put wax on it when I first got it because I wanted to protect it until I put this coating on. So basically, I'm going to show you the before and after of what it looks like. When it's still beading, it probably has stuff on it, but once you get it completely clean, you'll see it stop to bead, and it'll start to sheet water, or it'll start to hold the water onto the car because it has nothing to help get rid of it. The car will basically be squeaky clean in the aspects of there is nothing on it to get the water off, and there's nothing else on it. And this is just the first step. So once you wash it, we're going to go through many steps. We're going to clay bar it. We're going to do an iron remover. We got a couple other steps. We're going to get everything off of it. So first, we're going to wash it, and let's get to that first. All right, guys, so if you look very closely here, you see how it still kind of beads off of there? This is the before. So we'll come back with an after once we've done all of these processes, and I'll show you how the paint reacts. As you can see, it kind of sheets a little bit right there, but we still have some stuff on it, so we're gonna get all that off. Okay, guys, so firstly, on the first wash, I like to run a foam cannon over and just let it soak off to take off maybe any really loose particles. That way I don't rub that into the paint. So I usually like to run the foam cannon over top of the car, let it soak, rinse it, and then run the foam cannon again, and then start with my, sponge or mitt. I have a microfiber mitt that I use, and the best way to actually clean a car, if you're not already aware, is to always move in straight lines. Don't swirl, wax on, wax off when you're washing a car, because that's where swirls come from. So you always want to go in a straight line when you're running your mitt over top of the paint. That way, if you do pick up anything and it could possibly leave micro scratches, it won't swirl them into the paint. It'll be a straight line. So that's just something to do for every wash, is to try your best to have a clean mitt, and to also just make sure you're moving in straight lines, up, down. No, don't swirl your mitt. So this car I actually just washed, so I'm not gonna have to do the pre-rinse and soak because the car is already clean, but I'm gonna spray it and do the mitt first. But if you haven't cleaned your car, I like to do the spray and rinse first before I do the mitt version, just to get off any loose grit that could possibly be on the car. But for this one I've already done, so I'm just going to foam cannon her, and we're going to start with the mitt. So let's hit this. And as you can see, the Dawn foams up really nicely and sticks very good, which I do like. But you don't really want to use the Dawn for normal car washes, because Dawn strips all your waxes off. Now Dawn is not going to strip this ceramic coating off. Once that ceramic coating's on, it won't, but this will take off any waxes or anything. So unless you're trying to strip all that off, you probably don't want to use this on every run, because this is more of just what I use for a strip soap. Once the car is washed, I like to use a ceramic shampoo or some sort of wax, shampoo in my foam cannon. I only use Dawn for stuff like this where I'm actually stripping the paint. So just note that. Here's my microfiber. This is CarPro, which just so happens to be where my ceramic coating come from. No, I'm not sponsored, but that was the quickest one I could get on Amazon. And this mitt, I actually did have an account through CarPro, because they do make very good stuff. So I figured I'd give their ceramic coating a shot. Heard pretty good things about it. As you can see though, I am moving in straight lines. Like I said, you do not want to give you the good old swirl 9000 on your paint, which you are already going to be buffing it out, but you don't want to give yourself more work. I mean, come on. So this is something that you need to get used to, because every time you wash your car, it should be just like this. You do not want to do the wax on, wax off Ninja Turtle method that they taught you as a child, because it is incorrect. So we're gonna get her nice and clean, and then we're gonna rinse her. All right, so now that we're nice and sudded up, and we got our whole car wiped down with our mitt, we're gonna change out our nozzle. This is a Karcher pressure washer here. All right, we got it. Look at that. It's a Karcher pressure washer. It's got these quick connects on it. Adjustable fan. It works okay. Not my favorite. I like the ones that have the regular connectors, and it's chopped off right here, so you can just put the little nozzle right here, and easily, you don't have to carry around this long wand. But I haven't purchased another one yet. When I sold my van, I actually sold my nice pressure washer with it. It was an Adams brand, and it had the short stubby on it, which I loved, and I need to get another. So yep. All right, let's get this thing rinsed. All right, now I want you guys to take notice of this same fender from earlier and watch as when I spray it, how it sheets slowly compared to earlier where it beat it up pretty good. So that's telling me I've stripped down the paint and got rid of most of the stuff, if not all of it. This paint is also very new, so it's still going to be slicker than a 1990 Honda Civic, but yeah, as you can see, initially it's sheeting very slow, which means it doesn't have as much stuff on it, hopefully. But we're gonna hit it a couple more times with some different chemicals, so all that should fade away. So let's get it rinsed off and we'll go to the next step. All right, guys, so we got the first initial soap wiped on with our mitt and washed down and rinsed off. And after this first go round, I can already see that the water is starting to sheet slowly. So that's telling me I've gotten off most of the waxes and stuff that's on the car. But you don't want to stop here. Like I said, you really do want to do overkill on this prep because you don't want it to fail. So you definitely want to do another wash. I like to at least do 2 washes with Dawn and the mitt to really make sure I get it off. But I like to split mine up a little bit. So now that I got the initial wash and I've gotten it clean, we're going to go to one of the other steps, and I'm going to make the last initial Dawn wash the last step in my process. So we're going to come over here, and it's not this one. This is my wheel cleaner. I have this iron removing clay spray, and I don't usually use this. It's kind of expensive for a detailing van, but I don't have a detailing van anymore, and this is something you can get at the local parts store. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to spray this all over, and what this does is it'll remove any, like, you know, grits of iron on the paint. It'll turn it. It stinks very bad, so be prepared. And it's just going to remove any contamination. And this is not the only step, because I'm also going to be using a clay bar, but not with this stuff. So I'm going to use this first, because this is supposed to do the same thing as what a clay bar does, but I like to overkill it because I don't want this ceramic coating to not stick. I want it to be perfect the first time. So I'm going to do this, and then after I do this, we're going to rinse all this off, and then I'm going to take what's in this bottle, which is actually a waterless wash. You can get it from many different places. This is a Rain-X version, which is the only one they had at the parts store. I wanted to try and get stuff that you guys could get from the parts store rather than professional brands that you might have to order. But O&R makes a good one. They usually sell that at parts stores, but they didn't have that. So this is a Rain-X version of a waterless wash. It's like a white, looks like milk, but it's very slick. Because it's meant to be used without water as to wash your car. They also make a clay luber spray like Chemical Guys that you could use also. They didn't have that, so I went with this, and this is what I used anyways, was always a waterless wash because it's super slick. And we're going to clay bar it with that. Or you could buy a clay bar kit, which will come with a lubricant. They also sell those there, but I have my own clay bars. This is a Matte CC clay bar that I have here. So that'll be after the initial iron remover spray, that's just spray. We work that in, and then once we do the clay bar, then we're going to come back after the clay bar, and we're going to do another foam cannon wash with the Dawn dish soap. And after that, hopefully we'll be good. So let's get this sprayed on here, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so we have the iron removing clay spray sprayed all over the car. It says to wash and dry first. I'm not going to worry about drying it because
For one thing, you don't want the iron remover spray. It says it to dry up. I'm not too worried about it being wet. It doesn't say it can't be, but it just says wash and dry the vehicle. But I'm not going to worry about drying it. I sprayed it on. We're going to let it soak in. You might see it start to change colors if it's dissolving iron. I don't think this car is going to have very much contaminants on it. For one, it's a Tesla, so it doesn't produce that much brake dust, which is usually what's thrown all over the side of cars that causes iron particles and contaminants on the paint. And being it's a Tesla, it doesn't really use the brakes. I haven't even had brake dust on the wheels. So that's one plus to this car. So I probably won't see any color changing to be able to show you guys. But we're going to let it sit for about 2 or 3 minutes, which is what it says. And then we're going to agitate it with a sponge or mitt. I'm going to use a different mitt than what I use for my Dawn. And we're just going to agitate it, and then we're going to rinse it off. And then we're going to go to the clay bar step. This step probably isn't necessary because that's supposed to take the place of a clay bar. But to me, clay bar is, you need to do a clay bar. I wouldn't trust just a spray. Maybe on a vehicle that's this clean, it would do fine. But even this one, I'm going to do a clay bar on it. But it can't hurt it to do an extra step of having some sort of chemical iron remover or degreaser or anything on the car, because like I said, you want everything off of the paint before you do the ceramic coating. Which, like I said, we're also, even after this wash and all these steps, we're still going to buff the paint out, which is going to cut and remove anything else and get it down. But we also don't want to get any contaminants, waxes, or anything into our buffing pads. So we want our buffing pads to be put on to a spotless, clean, clear coat. So we're going to let this sit and agitate, and then we're going to move on to the next step. And yes, I do have Yeti buckets. Do not judge me. They are very nice buckets. And I had them on my detailing van because it looks better when you pull up to detail somebody's car and you have nice supplies. That was my thought process. So back off. I didn't want no Lowe's bucket. They are really nice buckets. They are really overpriced, but I mean, it was a one-time buy. It's not like I'm going to have to buy it that many times. And so far, I've had a bunch of other buckets, Lowe's buckets, all these other plastic hoo-has, crack and bust and do all that. These right here have had zero issue out of. They're very thick, very easy to clean. So back off. Now, another thing to notice after me spraying this spray is another reason why I added it in there is it's also helping to strip the paint a little bit more also. If you look at how the sheeting is going on here, it's going really slow now, even slower than before with just the one wash. So like I said, each time you put something on it, clean it, wash it, whatever. If you don't want to use this stuff and you just want to do the clay bar, that's perfectly fine. I would just at least wash it with Dawn twice. If not multiple times throughout the process, maybe in between each process. And definitely it's going to be my last step. So like I said, the more the merrier. The cleaner the paint, the better. Alrighty guys, so we got the car rinsed once again, and we're going to open up our clay bar here, and we're not going to need the entire bar. We're only going to need a little chunk of it, hopefully. If the bar starts to get really dirty, then you can get more. But we're just going to start off with a little corner chunk, as you can see here, and we're going to knead it out a little bit, about the size I want to go to. That way I can all over the paint. And like I said, if it starts to get really dirty or gritty, you can always flip it. And then if that side gets real dirty, then you can go back for more. Hopefully this one won't be too bad. So we got this car still wet, and now we're going to use this waterless wash, which is really slick. And we're going to get everything clay barred. So get this thing spraying a little bit. Had another chemical in it. Get it right. So we're going to get her sprayed up, and just like a mitt, you don't want to push down on it too hard. You also you want to go in nice straight lines with the clay. You don't want to swirl it, but we're just going to run over it and try to get it nice and smooth, and you'll feel it just gliding. And as you can see, I mean, it'll turn to different colors. If you ever hit something and you start feeling it, hearing it, then you may want to stop and not continuously scratch up your paint. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep this stuff on it, which keeps it nice and slick. It should glide like butter. If it's getting resistance, you might feel a little bit, because you are going to get some contaminants. That's what this is trying to pick up, is the contaminants. But you don't want to do this dry either, because it can scratch the paint, and it's still going to scratch it a little bit. That's why every time you clay bar, you always want to buff or polish the paint after it. Don't just clay bar it in your normal wash and call it quits, because this clay bar does put a little bit of light scratches into the paint because of what it's doing. So this is definitely something you only want to do when you're going to polish the paint, because granted, it might look okay, but they're going to be there and it won't look as good as the polish. So I wouldn't do this unless you're polishing the paint, or doing something like this, which we're going to be polishing it. So go panel by panel, get this done, and then we're going to wash it again with Dawn after this, and then we're going to pull it into the shop, because we will be done with the paint prep before we start polishing. Alrighty guys, so we went around the whole car with the clay bar. This one wasn't terribly dirty, but as you can see, there's the side where my hand was on, still orange. And as you can see, this side right here has some a lot of black contamination in it that we've gotten out, which is good. Nothing too gritty or anything. It stayed slick, so I didn't have to swap it around, but you can see we got off a lot of contamination with this clay bar. So now we're gonna have to clean it again. We're gonna have to get this waterless wash off of the car. So we're gonna re-dawn it and see, and we might even spray the iron remover spray back on it again, just to give an extra step to make sure we're clean. And then we're going to move into the shop, because we're done with the cleaning part. So let's get it finished up. All right guys, so we got the car rinsed back off after the clay bar. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray another layer of this on it, let this soak. Then we're gonna foam cannon over top of this with the Dawn, rub our mitt on it and rinse it off and see how it looks. If it's sheeting off real slow and everything looks fine, we'll stop it there. If not, we'll do another Dawn and mitt, and then we'll finish up, and then we'll be good. So I'm gonna get this sprayed on here one more time, help with any contaminants. We're also gonna get some the waterless off. The waterless is not too crazy, it should come right off. It's just a wash, but just to be safe, like I said, we're gonna make sure we got it all off. You don't want to stop at the waterless and clay bar, because like I said, the waterless is not, nothing. I mean, it can leave some residue onto the paint, so you do want to get the waterless rinsed back off, or clay luber or whatever. Whatever you used, you definitely want to get it off. That's why I like to finish with a wash from the Dawn. That's always going to be my last step, because I know once I rinse that off, the car will be squeaky clean. Dawn will not leave any residue after it's done, so I like to finish with that. So we're going to spray this, wait 2 or 3 more minutes, put the Dawn foam cannon on, run the mid over it, and hopefully finish up and get ready to go into the shop for polishing. All right, guys, so we got it dawned and washed after doing the spray on clay, after doing the clay bar, and we got that rinsed off. And now I've sprayed the Dawn on a second time just to be safe. I'm gonna let it soak for a minute, and while that happens, I'm gonna clean my wheels. I'm not doing anything with the wheels, and usually I clean the wheels first whenever I clean a car, but you guessed it, I forgot. But like I said, I figured I'd go ahead and get them clean. That way, once I finish this ceramic coating and I pull it out of the shop, the car will be completely clean. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these wheels and tires. I have this non-acid wheel and tire cleaner I'm going to try out. Usually, I'll use a degreaser on the tires, which will help get that brown out of them. And then I'll use some sort of wheel and tire cleaner. I have a Jax Wax cleaner in my foam bottle here that I'll use, but I figured I'd try this. But basically, I just want to get them to where they're clean, and I can get some tire shine on them, and they'll look good once the car comes out. So we're going to spray this on and give her a little clean, and then we're going to mid up the car and finish it up and put it in the shop. All right, guys, so we got the final wash on the car here, and we got it put into the shop. I dried it off with a drying towel. You can drive it up the road if you want to, but you could also get contaminants back on the paint. So I'd advise using a drying towel or investing in one. We got it in here. I'm not going to start on paint correction until tomorrow, so I'm going to let it finish drying overnight here in my shop. I know maybe not everyone's going to have a shop, but for the ceramic coating process, you're going to have to keep it either inside somehow, inside a garage, because once you put the ceramic coating on, it can't be outside. It has to have a 24-hour cure time, and it can't get any moisture like dew or frost or any of that stuff, rain, while it's going through that process. So you're really going to have to get something like a tent, at least something where the car can be inside. So yeah, if you don't have that, it's going to be tough, because it's not something you can really you really want to do outside in the elements. It really needs to cure indoors. So you may have to kick your wife out of the garage for the night, or something like that. But anyways, we got her in here. The next step is going to be paint correction. We're going to have to do a couple different stages, but we'll go over that in the next video in part 2. This will be a 3-part video. Part 2 will be paint correction, and part 3 will be the ceramic coating install, the prep work, the little prep spray, stuff like that. So, as always, I appreciate you guys watching. See you guys next time. Oh, and don't forget, like and subscribe.